Who up switching they stance? Hello everyone, welcome back to Switching Stances. I'm Ollie. We're in the McGregor hell era of fighting, where we're in a sort of flat circle of McGregor having a long layoff and coming back and breaking his leg and it happening again. And we're left to wonder both times, will he ever fight again? Obviously, the actual fight was with Max Holloway, a rematch of their fight when they were both babies, effectively. It was, 10, 15 years ago? Something like that, like 2013 or something. They were young. And it was a fight. This one was a fight that didn't really happen because McGregor bounded out through this stupid jumping double switch kick, landed sort of all of his weight weirdly on his right leg, and the whole thing just collapsed under him, and he just couldn't get going anymore. He was trying to kick off it, he was slipping over, he was trying to punch off it, he was slipping over. Just the whole leg went off, and that was that. Fight was over. Obviously, there was no way he could have continued through that. There's a bit of sort of, why did McGregor throw like that? Which I think is an unfair question, honestly. How many fighters do we see come out and do something big to put their opponent on the back foot or freak them out a little bit, get in their face? I think it happens so often, and so rarely does it result in such a catastrophic injury like this. So I feel like I get what the McGregor idea was. McGregor always comes out and starts fast or starts hard, and so many fighters come out and do a big motion. Obviously, in hindsight, it's not best advised, is it? But I think we're being a little bit unfair if we just sort of tar it as a totally idiotic move. I don't know why they were drilling it. I don't know why. They said they were drilling it for weeks, 6 weeks or something before the fight. So I'm not really sure what they saw in Holloway's game that made them think, yeah, a jumping switch kick off the bat is a really strong idea that we need to drill. But I think it's not the worst idea. I don't think it's a stupid flaw in his camp or whatever. But it does kind of suck as neither of these guys have moved on at all now. We have nothing from either of them in terms of this does nothing for Holloway apart from give him some more money. That's great for Holloway. That's awesome. For Holloway's career, it does fuck all. He doesn't move anywhere. He doesn't move towards Gaethje. He's still basically coming off a loss to Oliveira where he got dominated. He's not really established himself at welterweight. He's not really got the highlight of beating Conor McGregor. You can use the clips of him pounding McGregor on the floor, I guess, but anyone that knows the context, which is going to be anyone that's watching fights, is going to discount it. So it doesn't move Holloway. So we're still left in a position of what's next for Holloway? Do they try and make this fucking rematch? Does anyone care about the McGregor Holloway 3 at this point? It just feels like an inevitability that Holloway has surpassed him. It doesn't feel like there's anything particularly exciting. The Chandler fight feels good for McGregor at this point because they are both guys who are obviously on the decline, and McGregor only has one fight left. If you're the UFC, you want to get him out on a win, surely, or maybe you want to damage him as much as possible and get his ass beat by someone. They offered him Praches at one point, so maybe they do. Maybe I'm sort of figuring this out now. Maybe they do just want to tank McGregor before they release him into the wild to do bare knuckle or boxing or whatever he wants to do athletically with his body outside of the UFC. So maybe they just want to beat him up. And that's why they gave him Holloway. It was quite weird going from the walkouts, which kind of made you believe they were quite good walkouts, and they were convincing enough to make you go, oh, are we going to see something special here? You start hoping and believing for not necessarily a McGregor win, but a McGregor performance, a McGregor showing up and doing some stuff that makes you go, oh, yeah, I can see why he was considered one of the best in the world, or the best in the world at one time. But it then the fight happened or didn't happen. It just instantly clicked off and we had nothing left. The real star of this card was Paddy Pimblett. He had a bit of a layup in BSD, which didn't feel like a layup to a lot of people, I don't think. I think there was BSD's obviously a good fighter, a good lightweight, which Paddy hasn't shown himself able to beat yet. Like Chandler's on the downhill slope. Everyone that Paddy's beaten, apart from like Jared Gordon, has been on the downhill slope. It's been a dire strength of schedule for Pimblett, which is why those AI rankings don't rank him very well. Even if he had like a competitive, if not close, fight with Gaethje, where he kind of got beaten up. But we've all seen Benoit Saint-Denis getting almost submitted by Dustin Poirier several times, and we've all seen BSD go for that same double leg along the fence and Poirier jump for that same gilly over and over and over again. The clips were doing rounds on Twitter before it happened in the fights. Everyone was saying, this is obviously what's going to happen. BSD's going to shoot. Even Paddy was like, this is obviously what's going to happen. He's going to shoot in on me and I'm going to sub him. And like, if I had to predict how the fight's going to go, it's going to be like that. And that's exactly what happened. Like, BSD pressures him with a kick, goes for that goes for that double along the cage, and then Paddy takes his neck. BSD tries to roll out of it, and Paddy lets BSD come up to his knees, like he lets him come up from that roll, and then he switches to a Darce grip and sits his ass to the floor and gets his legs over, sort of hangs off him like a guillotine, but with a Darce grip, which was beautiful. He looked like a little spider in there. Just an inspiring Paddy Pimblett performance. The type of Paddy Pimblett performance that he's not had yet, where he just goes out and smokes a notable name, and everyone has to finally people have to go, okay, Paddy Pimblett's good. Like, as a guy who's been hating on Pimblett his entire career, not his entire UFC career, basically, I've been saying they're giving him shit. They're giving him terrible competition because they don't want him to lose. And then he fought Gaethje and he lost, like, quite widely. And even the Gaethje fight was like, okay, there's something to Paddy. Like, he's got some skill. He's obviously there in terms of he understands tactics. He's got some IQ. He's still a bit of a brawler, but like, he knew how to catch Gaethje. He clearly drilled ways to fuck with Gaethje, and even in a loss, it was inspiring in some capacity. This was excellent from Pimblett. This is exactly what you want to see to put him firmly into that lightweight. Top 7? I mean, I think he's probably like top 5 technically still. But it keeps him in a really interesting position, and it makes you go, well, maybe I want to see Pimblett versus Arman. Maybe I want to see Pimblett versus Oliveira. Maybe I want to see Pimblett versus Holloway. Maybe I want to see Pimblett versus Gamrot. Those kind, like Fiziev. There are so many fights now that Paddy Pimblett feels like he can win, which didn't feel that way before. This is such a good win for Pimblett. Next for Pimblett, honestly, I want to see Arman or Topuria. I mean, the Topuria fight's there if they want it. I guess it's how much do they want to give Topuria that rematch against Gaethje for the title? Are they convinced that they can get him back as the title holder and then get Pimblett in there? Or are they thinking, do it now, do it for a title shot, and then the winner of that is popular either way? You either get Paddy the star or Topuria the star. Next for BSD, I'd be keen to see Fiziev. I'd like, just because I want to see Fiziev a bit higher ranked, honestly, and I think that he's a winnable fight. And also, it's a winnable fight for BSD as well. It's a good way for BSD to say, no, I'm still that guy, after getting kind of smushed like that. So I think that's a really fun fight. There's not really any others that I'd prefer to see. I'd be interested in Gamrot. I always kind of just want to see people fight Gamrot because he's a really good gatekeeper. He's a really good test of like how good a fighter is. Are they elite or are they not quite? Gamrot's the guy to judge them against. He's the litmus test. Sanhagen and Batista rematched Bautista's debut or Sanhagen's debut? One of their debuts. So another rematch long in the wings. Both guys have shown themselves to be like the cool technical guy at bantamweight, who like sometimes will lose to the guys who are a little bit more put together in their games, but you can never count these guys out, and they always feel like the next guy. They always feel like the champion who's not the champion, you know. This was really, really fun. I really loved watching this. Sanhagen having some fun transitional offense, which it feels like he almost picked up from the Merab loss, where he's like getting a takedown attempt of his own and then letting go of it. And as Bautista's coming up, he's like hooking him on the break, or he's level changing into his left hooks, that sort of stuff, which is like classic Merab, and it's what kept hurting Corey throughout that fight. Not when he actually got dropped, but Merab would constantly have Corey against the fence. And then as Corey would start to break the hands, break the lock, Merab would just let go of it and start swinging. And it was just free offense that let Merab get ahead. Also a really cool shifting jab left hook from Corey, where he'd be, say, in southpaw, and he'd fire his left hand into a jab, and then he'd kick off the right leg. Just this really nice pendulum of motion there. But the story of the fight really was Corey Sanhagen's leg. Bautista took his back at one point and then tried to Sulayev stretch him, which was really cool to see because it happened not last week, the week before. Last episode, I guess. Last UFC event with Asu Almabayev and Charles Johnson, who is also a big, long, gangly guy. And we talked in that one about levers, and the longer the lever, the more power you're going to be able to get through it. So Corey Sanhagen, long legs, long arms, long body, you're going to be able to stretch that really nicely. And Bautista did. He seemed to tear something in Corey's leg. Corey got his head out eventually, and it sort of became a knee bar. But when he went back to his corner, he was limping back. And then Corey comes out, has an awesome round two, where he looks obviously compromised. His leg is not great. He's walking gingerly on it, but he's hiding it really well. He's still switching, he's still throwing, he starts kicking and kneeing off that leg in the latter half of the round. Like, it's so impressive how he manages to do that and fight a cool, damaging round with no left leg. But then in the third round, Bautista clocks him as he shifts in, and Bautista clocks him with a left hook, and Sanhagen's left leg just like crumples underneath him. It clearly just can't take his weight as he tries to brace into it. Like, it's the sort of knockdown where if his leg wasn't like that, I think he would have been rocked, but I'm not sure he would have been dropped to quite that extent, because that leg is the one that goes under him. And then he tries to sort of get out of it, gets hit on the ground a little bit, gets to his feet, and then Bautista is just able to take him over that leg over and over and over again. I think Cormier points this out in the commentary. But yeah, Bautista is just driving him towards that leg, sort of hoisting him off to that side, making Sanhagen take both all of his own weight and all of Bautista's weight on that left leg, and obviously he just can't do it, so he collapses it, and Bautista just like wins a really strong portion of grappling off it, and obviously gets the knockdown as well. It's not like he sort of boringed his way to the decision. It does raise an interesting question about scoring, because I think that Sanhagen won the first round if we're going off damage that was obvious in the round. He lands a really nice left hook counter when Bautista kicks, and he wobbles Bautista, and very early in the first round, he wobbles Bautista, and Bautista kind of has to recover a little bit. But then, and like that's the most damaging thing that happens within round one that we're aware of. But then round one ends, and Sanhagen stands up and starts limping back to his corner, and everyone goes, his leg's cooked. And so you sort of have to wonder, like, how do you score that as damage? I'm not arguing that you shouldn't score it as damage. I'm just wondering, do you score it as... Can you only score things that are apparent in round one? Because that wasn't apparent as damage within round one that was apparent between rounds, right? I'm not trying to like I'm not trying to cope my way out of a Sandhagen loss. I love Sandhagen more than I like Bautista, but I think Bautista fought a blinder and Corey lost it fair and square, and Bautista injured his leg. It's not like it was a freak injury. Bautista did that and made himself win the fight off it and got more damage. I think it's totally fair to score that as damage within round one, but I just wonder what the criteria says on that. I think it's quite interesting. It puts Bautista obviously into a really good spot where he now is within the top 5, within the top 4, I think now. I think him and Sandhagen are 4 and 5 now. Bautista's number 4, so he's only 4 Umar above him now. He's got O'Malley, but he's friends with O'Malley. They used to train together. And then you've got Merab, and you've got Petr Yan, of course. So any of those are like bangers. I'd love to see Bautista fight any of those guys. Also, the Song Yadong fight's fun for Bautista. I'm keen for that. For Sandhagen, it's less. It's actually quite dire for Sandhagen because he's fought everyone above him apart from Sean O'Malley. And there's this weird thing with O'Malley about like a restraining order or some shit. I don't know what their deal is. But they like won't fight each other for some reason, despite it being an obvious fight for quite a while. There seems to be this weird like background shit that neither of them really want to talk about that prevents them from fighting one another. I don't know if that's resolved or what, but it was a few years ago that was brought up. But lost to Petr Yan, lost to Merab, lost to Umar, lost to Bautista now, and he's also lost to he's beaten Yadong, who's below him now, one below him. So are we going to have to see Sandhagen fight down a fair bit? Are we going to have to see him versus like Barcelos, Basharat? Those kinds of fights? Like he's beaten Figgy, Zahabi maybe, but that feels a bit much. It feels weird to give Zahabi another step up. Zahabi feels like he should be ranked higher. I don't know. But yeah, odd one. I'm not really sure what you're supposed to do with Corey Sandhagen now. I think he'll probably fight down. Oh, I wouldn't. You know what? I wouldn't mind Peyton Talbot. Peyton Talbot would be a fun fight for Sandhagen at this stage. A good little crossover between another 2 like cool, long, technical guys. That's a fun one. Yeah, Peyton Talbot. Let's do that. Brandon Royval got a banger of a win over Lonnie Kavanagh. I really thought that Royval was going to be a guy on the decline, especially after that Manel Karp knockout loss. And Lonnie Kavanagh is like obviously a raw prospect, but a guy who is clearly making his way up. He seems to be, a new big guy at flyweight. So I was surprised that Royval won this, but pleasantly, because Royval is cool. It's taken me a while to accept it, but this fight has won me over as a Royval guy. He is cool. Royval obviously doing a lot with that jab, just sticking it out in Kavanagh's face, frustrating him, not giving him any obvious reads to counter off. Kavanagh trying to kick him in the calf when he does that, and Royval sort of knows it's coming and pulls back almost every time. He takes a couple, but nothing particularly concerning, And as soon as Kavanagh goes back to his corner at the end of round 1, his corner are like, abandon it. Don't worry about the calf kick. Like, if it's there, it's there. But he's prepared, I think is what they said. He's prepared for it. So we can take that out of our game. And they wanted more body teeps from him, I guess, just to keep Royval at bay, drain him a little bit. Maybe start working those knee stomps that Van was doing. Sort of set that up. And then speaking of corner work, Kavanagh thumped Royval with a lovely right hand when Royval threw his own left hand. He slipped off and then banged as Royval. It looked like Royval was squaring up to throw his same side kick. So left hand, left kick. But Kavanagh caught him really lovely and sent him spinning and landed a load of stuff on the ground as well. It was a lovely shot, lovely wobble. Royval looked like he was out of there in the sort of way that I thought the fight would end, but he managed to hang on. And then Royval goes back to his corner at the end of round 2, and they're like, after you throw the left hand, after you throw the 2, follow it with a high kick. which I was like, isn't that what he was doing when he got hurt? Why are we advising him to stay extended when he throws his rear hand? Because that is exactly what got him caught against Kavanagh. So I found that a bit baffling, but it didn't really matter because Royval managed to gut himself back into round 3 and get the submission. Royval found a fucking lovely lead uppercut in the 3rd round as well, where he'd throw his rear hand and then get Kavanagh coming back and clock him as he's coming back with that lead uppercut, which looked like it wobbled Kavanagh a little bit. And then, when Kavanagh had his back to the cage, he threw the same thing. He threw 2-5, and the lead uppercut caught Kavanagh as he was unable to pull his head back because it was against the cage, so he couldn't pull away from the uppercut, and it clocked him there as well. Just a really, really cool, like a dovetail almost. Royval also got really good at whenever Kavanagh was trying to come up on an underhook and like sit up and get his legs under, sort of get to a butterfly position or get himself back on the cage, build up. Royval was great at just slamming in elbows when Kavanagh had committed his arm for the underhook. Royval would just slam in elbows, and it was lovely to see a guy just flatten the other like that. And then, takes the back, moves into the arm triangle when Kavanagh rolls to his back, and then moves into the rear naked choke after Kavanagh gets out the arm triangle and just slides it like it's a textbook. It's a textbook rear naked choke, Arm under the neck, Kavanagh sort of turns into the choke a little bit, and that's enough to let Royval sink it in. Hit the hand behind the head, just everything looks so tight, so, blood is pouring out of Kavanagh because of the squeeze that's being put on him. Just beautiful submission. Nothing particularly bells and whistles, not a Paddy Pimblett. Oh, isn't this cool? Haven't you not seen this before? It was a rear naked choke, but it was a lovely textbook rear naked choke. Next for Kavanagh, I'd really like to see Horiguchi. I think that's a really cool fight for him, especially as like a guy who is going to bother him with a jab, who's not going to like overcommit all too much. He's not going to give Kavanagh a role in which he can be banged out. But he's also the type of opponent that might jump in with something and get banged out. So it's a good can Kavanagh deal with a jabber now? The guy who wants to annoy him and swat at him, whilst also not being too much of a step up. I think Kavanagh versus Horiguchi is a really, really nicely matched fight. And Royval has kind of done the UFC a favour here. I'm not sure they would see it that way. I think they're probably a bit high on Kavanagh as a cool counter-striker from the UK. But I think that there's already a logjam at flyweight, and if you add Lonnie Kavanagh into that mix, you've now got a queue of Pantoja. That fight hasn't even been announced yet, even though it seems to be what's coming. And then you've got Manel Karp, who is waiting in the wings, has kind of beaten everyone else, and is the obvious next guy and shouldn't really have to fight again to get a title shot. And then you would have Kavanagh. Whereas Brandon Royval has got himself into a position where he's not next for the title. No one's clamouring for the Brandon Royval title shot. Really, I think it's Royval versus Almabayev. I think that's kind of an obvious, can Royval stop the next guy as well? At which point you put him in the queue. If Royval can get 2 wins here, he's already beaten Tyra, he's already fought Van, he's already fought Pantoja, he's already lost to Karp. So I think this is the sort of fight against Almabayev that gets one of them into title contention. Probably one more for Almabayev, but Almabayev could beat Royval's one more and then get him into that title contention, because I like him. I want to see him get that shot, to be honest. I think he's great fun. Yeah. Also, who's going to turn down 5 rounds of Van versus Royval 2? Green versus McKinney was every Terence McKinney fight. Did really well early on. Was looking for that 3-6 a lot of the time, the lead hook and the rear uppercut. I guess because Green dips a lot. He dips off to the side a lot. So you had McKinney looking for that weapon. Managed to get Green down with a cage double, and then took his back and flattened him out, and was landing a lot of ground and pound. Like, spent like 3 minutes like it. And then Green gets up and hits him in the body a couple times, and McKinney falls down, and that's it. Which is like every Terence McKinney fight. Like, there's not a lot to say. This is Terence McKinney. He fights for 1 round and then dies, or he knocks him out in the first round, or submits him in the first round. Like, he's a cool, fun finisher who is like fringe top 15, obviously. But he just can't seem to get past what happens if his opponent survives. So, not a lot to say. Not a lot to say. What's next for Green? I like the Hooker fight. You know, that's a fun one. I'm not really fussed what's next for McKinney. It'll be fun. I'll watch it. I'll say the same thing as I say now. Whittaker versus Krylov. I wrote something about Whittaker this week. Give it a read. It's good. I wrote it about the Till and the Cannonier fight, sort of anticipating the winding down of Whittaker's career and going through the era that I value and cherish most for myself, because it was when I was watching Rob Whittaker. I wasn't ever there for the Romero days, or the Jacare days, or the Brunson days. So for me, the peak of my Rob Whittaker enjoyment was watching him gather himself against Till, and then put on a blinder against Cannonier and Gastelum. In this, it was very clearly a Whittaker who has regressed a little bit. Unfortunately, he didn't kick below the head, I think, once. No body kicks, no low kicks. Bit of a weird. Maybe he just doesn't like kicking against tall guys, but that just means he's not going to be kicking much, because he's going to be small in light heavyweight. You know, he's not going to be fighting many people shorter than Nikita Krylov. It's like Paulo Costa, and that's probably it. Like Shamil Gaziev, I guess. They're kind of similar height. But other than no kicking, it was sick from Whittaker. He looked good, he looked fast, he was doing this really cool... I mean, it was all long punches, it was 1-2s and 3s. But he was doing this really cool thing where he'd reach out sort of to jab, and he'd strip Krylov's rear hand as he jabbed. He came out to the right, grabbed that hand, pulled it down, and then launched his own right hand. And that was what kept cracking Krylov and leaving him defenseless. As a tall guy who likes to pull away, so Whittaker's long punches, looping stuff, kept hitting Krylov, who didn't really have any other modes of defense. He wasn't moving his head at all. It was just pulling his head back and trying to walk away. And Whittaker was faster and savvier and was able to just catch him over and over and over again until Krylov called the fight off himself. Krylov, for his part, had some nice ideas with like intercepting weapons, or like long weapons to push Whittaker away, which is something I've always wanted to see more of against him. People seem to sort of find them, but find him quite hard to track. So like in this one as well, was exactly that, where Krylov would try and front kick him to the body or land these body straights, and Whittaker would just be nowhere to be seen for them. I'm not sure he got hit by them. He just was circling away, and he used those long weapons as a way to just get back into the centre, because he was chasing Whittaker with them rather than using them when Whittaker tries to dash in. Rob looked a little weak in the clinch. There were times when Krylov was obviously just out-strengthening him, out-muscling him, and Whittaker looked a little bit like he didn't know great. You know, he knew what to do, and he managed to get out of it, and he was fine, and it didn't deplete him, clearly, over this 3 rounds. But it makes you worry. It would make you worry. I almost said it makes you worry about light heavyweights who can wrestle. It would make you worry if there were any. Like, you've got Jan Blachowicz, but Jan Blachowicz is 45 or something now. The only other one, Glover Teixeira, has long since retired. So you've not really got anything to worry about in terms of wrestling, because no one's going to be trying it. Next for Rob, probably a Roundtree or a Hill type of fight. Oh no, Hill's moving up. Probably a Roundtree type of fight. He was about to fight Ankalaev, but he's injured. So that kind of lines up schedule-wise if Roundtree's not out for ages. The Yuri fight has been thrown around a bit. I'd like it for my own nerves, just because I get to see someone I like win. But it feels hard to see Whittaker winning that one. So it feels a bit of a... I don't know, it's interesting. I guess we can see how far Rob can go at middleweight. Light heavyweight. Let's do it. Why not? Next for Krylov, not fussed. Whoever, probably defending he's like number 15 now, so probably defending his ranking against someone trying to come up. But who are the up-and-comers at light heavyweight? I think that's where I'll leave it. Basharat versus Gaza was the only other one that's like particularly interesting. I really like Gaza. I think he's really cool, and Basharat had some really nice adjustments to get the win. Like, Basharat clearly controlled the fight, but Gaza also showed that he's obviously a very good... Like, this looked like a guy who had fought his way up the bantamweight rankings and was contesting for the top 15 against Basharat, who is undefeated himself. So it's not like anyone's proven what the game to beat Basharat is. So yeah, I liked Gaza. He's cool. Other than that, it was a lot of sort of quick knockouts and not a lot to say on it. Just Adrian Yanez is so back, and Cody Garbrandt isn't. Luke Riley's cool. That sort of stuff. Not a lot to say. So I reckon we'll wrap it up there. Much love for sticking around. Give the Whittaker piece a read, and I'll catch you guys this week for Usman versus Duplessis. That's a fun one up at middleweight for Usman. He's looked good there before, so I don't see why not. And it's nice to see Duplessis back after kind of getting boring last time by Hamza. So we'll be excited for that one. Not a great card otherwise. I think Cannonier's on it, so that'll be fun. But yeah, we'll be back next week to chat about Usman versus Duplessis. Catch you later. Read the Whittaker piece. Goodbye.